is it serious? The doctor said that it's quite a rare condition. I happen to have this type of breast cancer called the triple negative breast cancer. So when the doctor gave me my diagnosis, she was very worried, partly because of my age. At the time I was 28, and then secondly was because of the aggressiveness of how the tumour was growing, and up to date there is no specific cure for that type of cancer.
I was diagnosed with 2 cancers at the same time in 2011. I actually went in for rectal cancer surgery, but while I was being prepared for it, they found that I also had testicular cancer. So it was a case of buy one get one free. I had to have what you call a stoma created. And the stoma is basically pulling out your intestine to part of your abdomen to dispose of your stool, which means you have to wear a bag. Although in some cases the condition is temporary, in my case, it was permanent.
我的癌症是在那个脊椎骨 T1 到 T4 里面的。医生说我已经末期了。医生跟我讲，全世界他有3%的人会中这个东西。
我以前小学生 primary 4一直头痛，然后一直去看诊疗所医生一直开给我本拿多吃了，一直没好，所以母亲就带我去医院看医生，然后 MRI 发现里面有脑瘤，我不知道可以活多久。
In November last year, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 3. I don't know whether it will become worse, it will spread to other parts of my body.
3 years ago, I was diagnosed with primary peritoneal carcinoma. Basically means cancer in the lining. We have this lining that lines our stomach, our spleen, our bowel and everything. I'm also at the advanced stage.
那个大医生来说，你没办法开刀，因为找不到你的血管，会怕流血不止，会残废咯。那我就想不要啦，我何必这样辛苦做什么？我不想做植物人啊，看可以活多几年嘛，看那个孙长大这样而已咯。
When I went to the toilet to mass motion and there was so much blood, it was like flowing out. And so there's this doctor in the consultation room. So he broke the news. And of course, first about the cancer, then about the stoma, and it was devastating. So I went out for a while to think about all this, to let everything sink in. I called my wife over the phone, we had a good cry, and then came back in and said, okay, we'll do the surgery now.
母亲他们不要告诉我，然后我假装我听到了，然后非常伤心。我的感觉就是很像心情从高处跌入谷底一样，非常失落。
I went to read up more on the internet, the good old internet, and I was shocked because I really couldn't find much info about this particular illness, and whatever you could find is all bad news. Basically, few survivors, it's very rare in the world, and nobody could advise you what to do and what is this cancer is all about.
For me, I don't want to know so much. I just feel that, the more I know, maybe I'll be more worried. I'm always thinking, if I read up all these things, I don't think I want to go for chemo. So we are ex-neighbors. Yeah, and her husband's a doctor. Actually, I did consult her husband. So when I heard about it, actually it didn't sink in at all. I don't feel anything. And so to me, it was like, I'm sick.
There were many things on my mind, I guess. My then boyfriend was still in Kuching, and we actually had plans that following year, he would actually come over to Singapore, and then we will start, preparing for our marriage and that sort of things. But I guess when the news or when the diagnosis came, I was very concerned would I even still be married? Would I still be getting married? Yeah.
In my case, I didn't tell my mom. I think that was the hardest part because she started dementia, So my children will go there with a phone and I'll talk to her. We had to lie to her that actually I'm traveling. Because then she'll be wondering why I'm not coming down, why I'm not visiting her and not bring her around. I think that's the hard part. She's the only one I like to, actually.
你有责怪任何人吗？一段时期咯，一段像1个多月这样咯，就怨咯。我是这么健康的，也有运动，也有全部次很健康的东西，这个事情为什么会发生在我身上
I never asked the question why me or anything of that sort, because to me, it doesn't mean that other people deserve it or that they should have it. But basically more I was asking myself, God, please tell me what you want. That I have this illness, there must be a reason. So maybe through me, we can all document what I'm going through and we can then share this information with more people.
I actually blame myself for not noticing my body change before I was diagnosed. I actually felt that, I had this bloatedness. But I just felt that it's like gastric. So I just take gastric pills and so on for a while, which kind of delayed the process. So maybe if I did it a bit earlier, maybe stage 2.
I wasn't really leading a very healthy lifestyle. I smoked, I drank, I was obese, lots of stress. So usually when people get the news broken to them, the question is why me? For me, I couldn't ask that. It's more like why not? Because I checked all the boxes.
I almost wanted to blame myself for it also. Maybe because of the lack of maybe own self-care. When I shared my condition to my family, let's just say one of the family members didn't take it very well. She shared and she said that, 你活该啦，你自己不会照顾你自己，你活该啦。And I guess that really hurts a lot. But I realized, after some time, these things do happen to us and we can't really pinpoint who exactly is to be blamed for anything, right? Because there are so many factors that would come into place. And if we were to start blaming every single factor that comes into place, then there will be no end to it.
周遭的人对你的态度有改变吗？我觉得有改变了他们的态度。那个时候还没有病是很多朋友，之后就没有了。然后有些就离开我，不要跟我做朋友，怕那个脑瘤会传染病菌。全部拿我铅笔盒丢来丢去，传来传去。那个时候生病也是有滚下楼梯很多次，为了面子我就告诉了，我滚下楼梯比你们走下楼梯更快。
So in my case, that wasn't an issue. So I didn't find any difference in the way people treated me. I come across as being very friendly, very confident, you saw me walk through the door, right? If I didn't tell you that I had all those conditions, you would never know. Some of the people with my condition, or even with cancer, they are very self-conscious. About sensitive comments that have been passed to me about my condition, strangely enough, came from another patient who had the same condition. He couldn't accept the fact that he had to have a permanent stoma, and he referred to the appliance that we wear as a shit bag. So, I have to go around wearing this shit bag, and he kept harping on it. And the important thing to remember is, it happened because your life had to be saved.
I get a very good wide spectrum of treatment from people. I would get remarks like, 你神经病啊，你为什么没有头发这样, which I felt was very unnecessary. There were very, very kind ones. There was this lady who was walking in the opposite direction from me, and from very far, we sort of caught each other's eye in that sense. And when we walked past each other, she actually tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "You're actually very brave." And it was a complete stranger, and I just looked at her and I was like, and I smelled bad, I couldn't say anything else, I was just very encouraged by it.
I really feel that there's a lot of nice people in this world, especially my friends, you know. I didn't go and see doctor, you know, for a while, right? Because I was thinking, hey, my schedule is so packed. When I really had to, everybody just reshuffle, take over, yeah, they just offered to take over your schedule, you know. And every week there's somebody with me when I do my chemo. My chemo is 3 hours, you know. They will sit there with me, talk to me, and usually I'll doze off. When I wake up, they are still there. So I just feel that, you know, they are so nice. I feel that it's good to share. It's good to let people know that you are sick, and people will just chip in, spend time with you. And at that time, of course, we don't know when we are going, right? So it's precious.
What could you do before that you cannot do now? The biggest and most direct difference is that I cannot breastfeed with one side of my breast. Yeah, that's the biggest difference.
我以前是自己做那个装修的，装修了后来就没有做了，没有做就我的孩子们有给我一点费用咯，我没有去麻烦他们的。如果跟儿女讲，如果我打电话给你，就是不好的事情才会打给你，他们有他们的路要走。
我没有谈过恋爱，像我这么多病痛过了，我不想拖累人了。我谈恋爱如果是自然来可以啊，他不介意我的病情啊，可以。可是我不要去找那些女孩子麻烦了。
I used to box for the Air Force. I was a boxer. I used to do fencing. And I used to play squash. These are definitely things I cannot do now because of the contact and all that, right? So for people with a stoma, you have to wear it 24/7. All right. Otherwise, there will not be something to hold the stool, and then you'll just. So I think one of my worst days was when I had gone for this support group luncheon. I started having diarrhea soon after I left the restaurant. So when I got off the train, I remember I was going to my mom's place, but halfway through the bag burst. So bag full, purse. Can you imagine everything's flowing down your leg? Your shirt is soiled, your pants are soiled, and then you cannot walk near people because it smells. And I had to wait until nobody was in the lift before I could go up. I called my mom, open the door, open the toilet, leave everything open and make sure nobody gets into it. And the only thing in your mind is to go and get cleaned up and put on a new bag. But it gets better. The second time it happened, I was cool. I was able to go to the toilet and clean that up. It wasn't so traumatic.
Now I sleep earlier. That's one thing I never do in the past. I always sleep very late. But now I learn to sleep early, so also relax a bit. I went to do pottery. When I first do it, I finish the product, I feel like throwing it away. I say it's so ugly, you know. So my teacher say, go glaze it, you know, paint it. So I painted it. So when it came out, I'm really surprised. Such an ugly piece of clay can turn into such a beautiful piece of pottery. Yeah, this is life, you know. Don't always dwell in what you are experiencing now. One day it will turn out beautiful.
你会常常想到死亡吗？我不会现场，因为我不怕这样无忧无虑的这样走掉，像白雪公主这样睡永远醒不过来，也没有病痛，那个有多好。像我爸爸就睡到走了。
一定每个人都会死亡的嘛，我已经有了，我已经拍了车头的照，我已经拍了，是我以前最handsome的时候拍的啦。因为你说有些东西是我太太不要给她做太多东西啦。起初我得到这个病的时候，她很难接受咯，就变成有一点忧郁症啊。好像医生有跟她讲过，我的命就是几个月，她还是要陪着我咯。 我不想出门了。我说你去走嘛，自己去走嘛。说不要啊。他们有跟我讲一句话，他说万一我出了门，你现在就没有了，你看不到了。我有跟他讲，我说万一有一天我走，你不要伤心了，不可以哭的。
The first thing I did was to go and do a will, because I never had a will done. And then I start telling people, especially my immediate family, that I love them. I think, of course, all of us would like to grow with our family up to a ripe old age, but we also know that this is what we want, but doesn't mean what we want we will get. In fact, beginning of this year, I had a relapse. I had a new growth, and I had to go for a second surgery. In my life, I'm really mentally prepared, put it this way. When it happens, that's it. So why bother to think about it? That's how I take it.
I guess there are some people who are afraid of dying, firstly because they feel like they want to achieve a lot more in life. I mean, there are still a lot of people who ask me, am I afraid of dying? And my answer to them was always no. We each have our own time to do different things. When I die, I don't want to have a funeral. I want to have a party in that sense. I want it to be something that like people are happy for me that I'm gone, that I'm going to go to a better place. I guess for me, a good death is when nobody cries when I die. Yeah. What is on your bucket list?
So the topmost one, which I think I'll take the longest to realize, is going to Machu Picchu in Peru. That has always been something I wanted to do since I was very young, and it's still there on my bucket list. But I would like to do more meaningful trips like the one I did in the Gobi. And we are trekking there in the open, risking dehydration, risking blisters. But the motivation again, as I said, one was to raise funds for needy cancer patients. Second was to tell cancer patients as well as people with stomas that, look, you can go to the desert and trek for 6 days, no issue. So don't worry so much about your condition and go on and live life.
很想要做警察改变长大，又不可能，因为我这么多病痛，还有要做老板，可是没有机会，因为没有本钱。
我有很多东西要完成，就是旅行啦，看我的孙长大啦，这样的勾这样的。我后悔说，我做的义工太少了。所以我有一个心愿哦，我去黑街跟他们讲，如果我会好起来哦，我会去黑街做义工的。
One of the top thing on my bucket list is having to see my grandchildren, because I really think that it was so interesting to see their offspring.
I have them too, but unfortunately, my kids have no boyfriend yet. So I told my kids, I say, better start getting a boyfriend when you're in pre-U. Pre-U came and gone, they still have no boyfriend. I said, pre-U came and gone, and now you're the uni came and gone. What happened, They still don't have, but I guess I can't push them.
Time is running out.
There's still a lot of things you want to do, right?
Yes. Suddenly, you feel that, hey, there's so many things, and am I supposed to go so early or, yeah.
I don't believe in the idea of a bucket list. Personally, I feel that when I have a bucket list, right, it makes me want to achieve these things, and sometimes it may even cause certain kind of like extra burden or stress on yourself or on other people, and I'm not going there. Yeah.
If you could eternalize one memory, what would it be?
Tough. Can I be greedy and internalize more than one? I have so many beautiful memories actually, whether it's families, friends,
I think one of the very nice memory was when my son actually proposed to his girlfriend. I think it was a very nice memory in the sense that he included us to witness his proposal. I just felt very nice that I was part of it. I think this will stay with me for a while, yeah.
Well, I guess I would say My husband, every time on my birthday, he actually always plans surprises. We courtship for 10 years before we got married. And even after we got married, he will still try to plan something like, my birthday, you can suddenly find that there are roses on my bed and it's arranged according to like how old I am. He'll arrange the flowers. So he always has something for me. So I think that's beautiful.
我最想保存的回忆就是跟父母在动物园里面走走，还有在飞行公园里面看那个鸟表演，因为那次是我最开心的那个一次。
保留一个回忆就是我跟我太太结婚的那日子了。我结婚那天是1975年4月10日，我大我太太10岁嘛。那时候我结婚的时候，我的岳父岳母啊，好像起初不大赞成啊，后来就好了，他对我们实在很好，就那种回忆值得了，值得回忆了。
I think that very moment where the epiphany happened was a memory that I would keep forever. The day I was diagnosed, I guess I felt like a huge part of my world crashed. What happened was that I heard a voice actually, telling me that actually I don't have to worry at all, that things will be fine. That moment itself, right, changed a huge part of my character. The old me was so afraid of not looking perfect everywhere I go. So even if I go to the market, I would still put on like my nicest top and I would like slap on at the very least foundation and concealer. But I guess after having this condition, actually all these looks and everything doesn't matter anymore.
I think that memory would definitely be the time I spent with my mom, my late mom. In her place, when I go there, she'll cook. And because I'm her favorite son, she cooks a lot of dishes. And then because she knows I don't like my rice very hot, because then I can't eat. So ask me what time I'm arriving, and then she'll prepare the food so that when I get there, wash my hands, I'll sit down, and then she'll sit with me, open all the dishes, and start to serve me. And I think that would be it. One word or phrase to describe how you would like to be remembered. I would like to be remembered as a helpful person. If I had done that, then I would have succeeded in living a good life. Because there has to be more to existence than just making a living and living life, and there has to be more to it. And I think that is my calling, because whatever work I'm doing now with the charities, I really enjoy doing them. I make time for them.
我希望他们记住我的善良慷慨。以前同学要借书本，我借给他们；外面要借工具，我就借给他们。虽然不是很大，可是也是可以的，也是可以指明是慷慨。
Can I say what I like to remember you?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I like to remember her as somebody who is super positive. And she's like a superhero to me. Okay? Really, I respect her a lot. She's really so helpful. You can never imagine someone will go out of her way so much to do things for neighbors, for friends, for anybody.
Despite her heaping a lot of praise on me, she herself is also very helpful. We are neighbors. I just moved in and I was pregnant and all that. She will bring Cherished, my daughter, to play with her daughters and everything so that I can have rest. So talk about someone who is thoughtful, helpful. She herself is one of them.
我希望他们会记住我，对他们好咯。我不是什么大人物嘛，如果是我太太、我儿女们记得我，朋友记得我就够了。
When I went to see my oncologist and then we're just like casually chatting, and he said, Yolanda, out of the thousands of patients that I've seen, you are the most carefree patient I have ever met. Yeah, actually that was how I would really want people to remember me as. Throughout my entire treatment and everything, right, I was just smiling all the way, and I was greeting everybody, and I was talking to every nurse and every doctor and every patient that just brushes past me, you know. I think sometimes what's really very important is the way we look at that situation. It's really up to us. You need to decide what kind of ending do you want. If you want a happy ending, then you will get it. But if you only think about a sad ending, then you will also get that.